Hello and welcome to the Empire Today Show. I am your host, Rafa Riasa. We've got our 4 topics that we're going to be covering today, starting with the conflict in Iran. After that, situation in Canada, where some of the provinces might be thinking about leaving. Following that will be what's going on in Cuba. And finally, will Venezuela ever have freedom? Let's go ahead and start. The clock begins. So, conflict in Iran. Well, main thing to understand is the 100th day of the war was technically yesterday. Despite there being a ceasefire, of course, the missiles are still firing. Kuwait, for example, was attacked. Their international airport, half of it was essentially destroyed due to Iranian strikes. This was out of retaliation, according to the Iranians, for a situation where a ship attempted to cross the Strait of Hormuz. The fact is this is not going to end until the US allies actually decide to support this, at least in terms of rhetoric. Japan, South Korea, the EU all rely heavily on the oil that comes through the Strait of Hormuz. Until they actually start sending their warships, until they actually start giving, at the very least, nominal support, the Iranians are going to feel like they have a way out, and considering that we are going to continue on this war. The Iranian regime has been in place for over 47 years, and they are going to stay as long as they feel they have an out. The fact is, if the Europeans, at the very least, nominally supported this, were sending warships to the strait to secure it, we would likely find a sooner end to this war. Let's go ahead and get to Canada. So, Quebec and Alberta are both threatening to secede from the Canadian Federation. This is extremely significant because it is clear that people in Canada, citizens of Canada, are not pleased with the actions of the Carney government, which obviously is just an offshoot of the Trudeau government. Now, what is going to happen? The fact is more than likely the referendums that are going through in October are not going to lead to an actual secession. Based on the last Ipsos poll, the support has actually lowered, particularly in Alberta, for secession. And of course, there's a lot of other issues that go along with it, First Nations treaties, and of course, laws that the government in Ottawa have in place to keep the provinces within the union. Regardless, though, they need to start paying attention. Ottawa has to do something about the fact that its citizens are literally wanting to leave. Alberta, in particular, is one of the highest producing provinces in terms of oil, in terms of cattle, in terms of resources, and of course, taxes. If they want to leave Canada, Carney, you better start paying attention and you better do something about it. Situation in Cuba, well, as you may know, they've been dealing with 15-hour-a-day power outages. This is really, really bad. Of course, the blockade that the US is doing in terms of not allowing it to receive oil is playing a significant part. But let's be real. The Cuban government has been in complete bankruptcy for essentially decades now. Their economy is in utter shambles. For the past 50 years, they've essentially done nothing but leech off of its allies that were willing to actually support it without actually producing anything in terms of their own economy. At what point is the United States going to allow for this enemy nation to exist 90 miles off of its coast? The fact is we should be working on integrating Cuba into the United States, whether it be through a territory, whether it be actually making them a state, which, believe it or not, a lot of Cubans actually do support that are here in the United States. We need to make sure to secure it for it to be peaceful and for it to be prosperous. Maybe one day we'll actually be able to be going to Cuba, seeing the development, and seeing it become the nation that it was always meant to be. Finally, What's going on in Venezuela? Well, as many of you know, a few months ago, Maduro was literally taken out by the U.S. military, captured by the U.S. military, and brought to the United States. Since then, Delcy Rodriguez has remained in power. This is her vice president, of course. And considering that, the communists do remain in control. This is despite the opposition having had over 70% support in the last election. Situation is complicated though. As long as the military supports the communist regime, it's going to be very difficult to actually create a regime change, to actually allow an installation of the opposition with Maria Corina Machado in power, because it's just too unstable. We can't just install leaders, okay? So the fact is we need to continue allowing Venezuela to open up. The fact that the embassy was opened up for the first time in 7 years in Caracas, and of course the Venezuelan embassy in Washington, D.C. is of extreme significance. The oil is starting to flow. U.S. industries are coming in to develop Venezuela, but the communists remain in power. There is hope, but we still need to get somewhere. We still have a lot of work to do to actually realize some sort of freedom in Venezuela. Well, there you have it. 4 topics, no fluff, really quick, short form. Hope to see you next time. Definitely like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions on topics, please go ahead and post them in the comments. I will see you next time.